Your first protocol with any conversation with your child.
Today I'm joined by Natalie Costa, teacher, coach, and founder of Power Thoughts, to talk about how we raise emotionally resilient children in a fast-changing, often overwhelming world.
We're so obsessed with grades and academics, but a stressed child can't thrive. I do say to parents, I'm like, who taught you to regulate your emotions?
Nobody.
What was the emotional language in your home growing up? Was it big fiery emotions? Was it that we just don't talk about it? We're trying to break a pattern here.
I remember when he started living with us, he was like, I don't know how to tell this to you, but it's you, it's not your kid. You're the problem. And I was like, excuse me? If you could wave a magic wand and one thing would be added to school curriculum, what would it be?
One? Oh, that's hard. I think definitely. Why are we not teaching kids that they don't have to believe every thought they think or react to everything they feel? We're letting our children down. And what are we doing about it?
Welcome to Do Not Disturb, the inside story. I'm your host, Simona Deifta. Morning mantra you love.
I'm incredibly lucky. Good things always happen to me. Show me how lucky I am today.
Love it.
I love it. So it's not necessarily a mantra, it's a statement, it's an affirmation. I love it because it reminds me to look for the good things because my brain tends to focus on what I'm not doing and what's not working. And it's a different spin on gratitude because I think sometimes I find the word gratitude has been used so much, and actually I'm really lucky because of this or with this or with this. And actually it's been a fun game. I've actually started keeping a list of things that I've noticed. So yeah.
That's so cool.
I'll find out where I got it from because I know it's not mine. So thank you to the person. I'll find out where it's from.
I'll teach this to my son because I think he struggles with word gratitude. It's a very, heavy. It became heavy somehow.
Yeah. I do get kids actually to do a scavenger hunt where I say to parents, when you say goodbye to them and they go to school, send them on a scavenger hunt and say, okay, so today you're going to find 3 things that make you smile, or find 3 things today that you did that was brave, and then come and tell me about that. So it just helps our mind zoom in on that, versus all the other things that it tends to
fabulous.
Focus on.
This was supposed to be a quick fire, but this is so good. This is golden, One thing kids have taught you about life.
Oh, so much. But I think they're present. They're in the moment. Sorry, I've got to give you 2.
Oh, give me all of them.
And they're just playful. They play. We forget how to play.
Oh, we forget.
I forget how to play. Yeah.
We need to play more.
I know.
Best advice you give parents in one sentence.
You are a good parent. Even when you don't feel like it, a good parent.
Good parent. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. Yeah. It felt a really good timing to speak about everything, summer holidays, school. We discussed this a little bit off camera. I have not watched Adolescence myself. I find it I have a 10-year-old. I find it such a scary movie. This is horror movie. I've heard of it, so I created some questions around that as well that I'm sure you can help some parents unpick. But before we dive into all of these amazing important topics, could you just tell us a little bit, how did you start your career and how did you get here, and about yourself?
Oh, I love that. No, thank you. And thank you. I'm really excited to be here, and it's going to be a great conversation. So I am a former primary school teacher. I trained in South Africa, and I also pretty soon realized that there was something more that I wanted to do, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. So I did teaching degree and I did psychology degree. And then the plan was to finish my honours and then come over and teach for 2 years and then go back to do my ed psych. And that never happened. My dad's Portuguese, so I've had dual citizenship, I've always travelled abroad. And that got me into teaching. And I taught at various schools, did a lot of supply teaching, worked in pupil referral units, taught in Berlin for a while. And then I was back in Westminster, not far from where we are now, lovely Church of England school, but I felt stuck. And there was just this little voice of this isn't it. And I was like, well, what is it? Because I don't know what it is. I dabbled a bit in the fitness industry because I enjoy fitness. But again, I was like, this is not it. And I just had this, I don't know, this voice saying, there's something else you're meant to be doing. So long story short, the school I was with had sent me on a coaching course thinking it was a taster to PE, physical education, but it was a taster to life coaching. And that was when life coaching was quite new. I really enjoyed it because it was on the theme of, psychology themes, but it was slightly different in terms of helping people move forward. So I then trained to become a personal performance coach, still teaching full time. And I was a year one teacher at that point. And I remember working with a group of children at one point, and they were quite stressed about exams. So this was when I'd moved into year 6. And one particular boy was preparing for his school interviews, the 11 plus process, and then getting into prep schools. And he was incredibly nervous, thinking, Miss Costa, I've got nothing interesting to say because I'm boring. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting. Because I said, you're a very smart boy. He's very smart, very intelligent. Turns out kids had called him boring when he was younger, and I just thought to myself, he's going to carry this belief with him. And it was then that I really thought, but why are we not teaching children about their beliefs? We're so obsessed with grades and academics, but a stressed child can't thrive. And I knew from first-hand experience, because I grew up with a lot of worry and anxiety and negative thoughts about myself and self-doubt. I was like, but why are we not teaching kids that they don't have to believe every thought they think or react to everything they feel? And so that sent me on this journey of creating power thoughts, helping children tap into the power of their own thoughts. And I mean, it's been a real journey. I started off doing it within schools and workshops in schools. I then started working with parents. I then started doing one-to-one coaching with families, and then started working in the corporate sector, supporting working parents in the corporate space. And I think, fundamentally, I created power thoughts for younger Natalie. Because as a little girl, I grew up happy home, I was a happy home, but I was anxious. I was very worried. I had my worries from the age of 8, and my parents try as much as they did. I remember going to psychologists. I was put on antidepressants when I was 16, up to about, late 20s. And I always just thought, well, this is just me. And I've just got these thoughts, and nobody ever taught me about thoughts and thinking patterns, and that you don't have to believe everything you think.
So many of us, though.
Yeah.
And when we are going through those stages, we think it's just me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you get told, don't worry. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, this doesn't help because the anxiety is quite high. And everybody's got a personal experience, but I think it came from that. And when I found that, and it's so funny because I remember during my teacher training years ago, I used to say to my mum, I enjoy teaching, but I want to teach children what I'm passionate about, what I like. Not phonics, not maths, not times tables. And it's actually really funny how, well, it's not funny. I believe everything's linked, but it's quite interesting that I'm here today. And had I not had my experiences where I do get anxious, I do worry, it's more glass half empty versus glass half full, then obviously I don't think I'd be here where I am today. And for me, it was fundamentally giving every single child these tools that is aimed to be more preventative. Yes, you've got great therapies for intervention, for trauma, and all of that is necessary. But this was just basic emotional fitness, mental fitness. This is what I wanted to give because we just don't look at that.
And thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I feel very seen when I watch your videos and things like that.
Thank you. That means a lot.
That's great you're doing that. I find that although you say your childhood obviously led you to this point, I find that childhood of every generation really, but this generation compared to even our generation is so different.
Yeah.
Is that just me, or is that true?
No. I think every generation has its unique challenges, but I do think we're in an interesting time. I think with regards to the interconnection of internet, everybody is connected 24/7 all the time. The advancement of AI, how quick that has gone just in the last couple of months, year. And then also the conflict, everything else that just seems to be going on globally. It it perhaps feels also more intensified because we're seeing it 24/7. And then we've also given children these devices and their brain is not yet fully developed, but they've got access to the world 24/7. And so there isn't time really for boredom, for space, and also like the world, it just feels like it gets faster. You know, we're in a very success orientated society of, when I get this, then I'll be successful. When I get this, then I'll be good enough. If I get into this school, this grade, this job, this house, this car, it's like, it feels like it's just faster, faster and faster. And it almost feels like the more connected we are digitally, the more disconnected we are. And I mean, I think there is this loneliness epidemic at the moment. And to me, it does feel like it's a different kind of pressure. And I do think the pressure that our children face, it's there because of how interconnected we are. And it's not necessarily something that I feel their little brains can process and should process. But, you know, that's where
little
we are.
brains till what age?
I mean, yes, you know, studies find that, you know, that prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's responsible for, you know, regulating emotions, managing difficult feelings, planning, perspective, flexibility, to motivate, to inhibit certain reactions or responses, analytic, you know, thinking more analytically and so forth. That part of the brain's only fully developed by our mid-20s. So, and I often remind parents of this, you know, because I know with screen times, and I'm not here to say video games or things is not necessary, because they act as a great decompressor for some children. And I think we've got to learn to live with them. And how do we live with them healthily? But we cannot expect to give a device to our child that is guaranteed to make their dopamine go even faster and guaranteed to raise all of those feelings. And they don't have the part of the brain that helps them to regulate, that helps them to put a lid on it, so to say, and inhibit them when they know, you know, all those hard feelings, that resistance, like, I need to stop now. That part of their brain is not yet fully developed. So we cannot expect them to just come off the games easily. No, and then we get angry
even
with
adults.
them.
I struggle coming off Instagram and you name it.
And we've got a fully developed brain.
Yes.
And then we get angry with our child because they should listen to us. I'm like, no. We have to flip that around. Am I ready to take on board the emotions that are going to come with my child being on games? And of course, you know, like, there's a way that we can work around that, not smooth sailing, but I think it's managing expectations. And I think when the expectations are here and your child's here, that's often where the power clash comes. Whereas actually, can I just expect this is going to be hard? Doesn't mean I'm going to like it. Doesn't mean it's going to be fun. Okay, but that's the job of being a parent. It's not their job to be easy for me, and it's not my job to make them happy all the time. And that's hard. That is tough. I say that with love and compassion. But you are the adult with the adult brain, and they're the child. I think just the challenge is...
Now that my son is 10, he can say some things to me when I take his phone away, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have to be popular. Like, exactly. I don't need to be popular in this household. It's gone. I'm taking it away. It's going.
Yeah.
You don't like it? I'm really sorry, but I'm happy to be disliked. Like, it took me a decade. I mean, but I'm okay with not being liked, you know?
And it is hard. 100% hard. I'm not at all discounting that. A lot of parenting is a challenge. And I think, you know, we spoke a bit off camera about this, but I think let's normalize the challenge. And just because it's hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. And it also doesn't mean you're a bad parent. Because I think that's what I see a lot in my practice. And I think, you know, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's so much of this work and what I see when parents come to me, they're trying to break a pattern, a generational pattern. And they are trying to be more intentional, to try and be more present, to put boundaries in place in a different way, because many of us were raised with more of the authoritarian, fear-based parenting, but they've never been modeled or taught how to do that. So of course it's going to feel difficult. And I think sometimes we're just like, okay, but it should not be easy, but but it's hard. It's difficult. It's
going to, some moments will have to be hard. And tell me, I don't know if you watched The Adolescence, but that obviously highlighted a lot of the issues we are talking about right now. Do you actually see those issues in your practice and have feedback from parents?
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing, not to obviously that extreme, but I've been, I was in the education sector. I was a teacher for over 12 years, taught in various different settings and pupil referral units, settings where children were excluded from school but not quite made it into pupil referral units yet. So children that really struggle with behaviour, a lot of boys. And I mean, I've definitely been on the receiving end of children being physically aggressive. And I think I can totally understand the impact of the last few years and why it is where we are today. Obviously, when I was a teacher, it was very different. Children didn't really have access to mobile phones then. It was, we're talking about 2007. So, But now, in my private coaching, I think a big thing that does come up is it definitely screen times, and as well the tween and teen years with parents in terms of how do they manage that with their children and stay present and have intentional conversations. And the other thing as well, bullying, online bullying. I do have a lot of, not a lot, but I've got a few clients at the moment who are experiencing that, and comments left by someone on TikTok because it's making a direct reference to someone else. That was a session today with one of my 11-year-old girls. And I can definitely relate to some of that. Obviously, I'm not in schools as much, so I'm mindful that it's not always the conversations that come up when I work with kids. But there are definitely cases that I can totally understand why we are where we are. And I'm not surprised, I think. But I think it was a good program to watch to highlight where we are at. And for me, it's not just on the parent, but actually as a societal aspect, we're letting our children down. And what are we doing about it?
So what are we doing about this? I called this chapter Emotions 101 because I didn't know how to really give us some tips, give me even myself. I'm going to take notes if I have to, but I wrote Emotions 101, helping kids name and manage big feelings. Yeah. And then I obviously broke it down. What are the most important emotional skills? What are the most important emotional skills kids need to have to thrive, in the society?
Such a good question. I think there's a few things here. I mean, and I'm trying to just keep this bite size.
Yeah.
But that's always a challenge for Natalie. I think, first of all, understanding emotions, being allowed to feel safe to feel and express your feelings, and allowing your child to feel safe to express and feel their feelings.
Could you give examples?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and this is hard because I'm not saying anything in terms of they're going to be physically hurt, but how often do we feel shame, or we are told off, or we are sent to our room because we have an emotion such as anger? Right? Go to your room, or don't talk to me. And I understand that, but we respond to the anger and we're not actually responding to what's really going on underneath the anger. Especially children say, I hate you, you're the worst mum, I wish I wasn't here, I wish I was in a different family. Depending on the context, depending on the stress responses of the parent will talk back, right? Or they'll retaliate back. And I think it's first of all understanding, and I do this with children as well, understanding, okay, well, what is underneath anger? Anger is one feeling, but actually it hides other feelings.
But you do it in the same moment, in my household. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm open to accept that. I would be go to your room, or go take a sit on the sofa, breathe it out, calm down, and then we discuss it.
Yeah, and I mean, in the moment, it's very unlikely to get anything done. However, the language shift, if you want to take that on board, is something along the lines of, do you know what? There are a lot of big feelings right now, and I get it. And right now, I'm having my big feelings. Go to your room. You're not in trouble, but the big feelings are too big, and we will talk once the feelings are smaller or calmer. Or let's separate, or it's not go to your room because because you've been bad with the anger.
Yeah.
It's go somewhere if you need to. Sometimes we don't, but I do often say, like, sometimes, do you know what, these feelings are really big. I'm coming with you to your room. You're not in trouble, but the feelings are too big. And we will chat, or we will continue this once the anger's calmed down. And I often, with younger children, let's start to create feeling characters. Let's, and one of my clients was 5, I remember at the time. I love the name he gave his anger. He called it tornado, right? And we looked at, where do you feel tornado in your body? What color is it? Is it heavy? Is it light? And of course, you have this conversation with your child outside of the big feeling moment. So the next day or the weekend, where you say, do you know what I'm thinking about? Yesterday was tough. I asked you to do something. You didn't want to do it. Mummy got mad. You got mad. All had these big feelings. Tell me, where do you feel your feeling? Draw your feeling and, what does it feel like in your body? Let's draw a character of it. Because the reason why we then create these feeling characters is so it begins to help children learn that I can feel the feeling, but I don't need to be the feeling. It also gives you better language to then talk about these big feelings when they arise. And it also allows you, after those moments, to say, do you know what? We had some visitors. Mummy's tsunami was there. Your tornado was there. It got too big. What was actually going on? And so in that way, we're not shaming them. And I'm not saying parents are shaming kids intentionally, but go to your room. I'm not going to talk to you until you listen to, until you know what
I definitely do more of it as my child grows as well, because I feel like he's capable of dealing with that, but I'm not happy about this. So I am lacking tools, in and he's also having hormonal shifts,
that's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, so I'm definitely, need to be equipped with tools on how to deal in situations.
The best thing you can do in those heated moments is, the main aim of the game here is to de-escalate. And who needs to de-escalate first is you. But that's the hard bit, though, because I do say to parents, I'm like, who taught you to regulate your emotions?
Nobody.
And if you think about it, and this is no blame with our parents, we've all got our own story, but what was the emotional language in your home growing up? Was it big fiery emotions? Was it that we just don't talk about it? Do we just not, something happens and we just never talk about it, but it's all passive aggressiveness.
I mean, it was a whole different game back then. I think it's just.
But what I'm saying is that was our model, and yet now we're trying to create a different model. We've never been shown the blueprint of, here's my adult, they're about to get angry, but they're telling me I need a minute. Breathing, leaving the room, whatever it is, the tools, we look at move it to lose it, power breathing, whatever that might be. We never had that. And so I think it's really having compassion for ourselves of like, no wonder this is triggering me, because nobody taught me how to do this. And if it's really hard for me to keep my lid on, as so to say, it's 150 times harder for your child who doesn't have that part of the brain fully developed yet.
Definitely harder for our children. I think the assumptions of many people, it's easier for them, but it's definitely not. And I mean, different ages will require different conversations and different techniques. Sometimes, I don't know if it's too early or too late. So again, my son is 10, but what would be the age that you would advise? I tell him, you know what? I lost it because I didn't have that growing up, and I'm sorry, like mommy didn't do it well, but I'm still learning also to regulate my own emotions. And, my goal is that you are able to regulate them when you are an adult. So I will kind of give him this backstory, but I don't think that would have been necessary at 4. It would be just confusing for a smaller child. Like, it wouldn't create a sense of safety in a way for my child. Like, what is the age when we start having those conversations?
I say start from, you want to model what you would like your child to do. So you might not go into such an in-depth conversation with your child at 4 about, this is mummy's history, but you might just say, do you know what? Mummy got shouty, and mummy's sorry. And mummy had all these big feelings, and they got really big. And it's not your fault. And mummy is still learning. Come, do the breathing with mummy. Let's do take 5 breathing together. Let's practice it now. all right, and I love you, and you are so lovable. And I mean, even there with children as well, there was a study done it was mentioned in the book Emotional Agility. The study really was about teaching toddlers emotional vocabulary. They followed these toddlers around throughout their development and obviously expanded their emotional vocabulary over time. But basically what they found is that these toddlers that had a slightly wider range of emotional vocabulary when they were little ended up being adults that were far more resilient because they had more words to express how they feel beyond happy, sad, or mad. And so a fantastic thing that you can start to do with your child is start to read stories and books around just different feelings, obviously age appropriate. We're not really maybe going to talk about
there is a monster in your book. Do you know this?
Yeah, there's that
like
one.
That? Yeah.
And I mean, there's a really good resource that I use a lot with my clients who are probably, say, anything from about 8, 9, 10 and up, the emotions wheel as well, where you've got sad, scared. You've got quite a few. You've got like powerful, peaceful, sad, scared. There's 6 different ones, like 3 more positive ones, 3 difficult ones. And then that branches off into like frustrated, disappointed, boredom. And then that branches out into a few. So basically it really gives children, oh, okay, so I was sad, but actually under sad I felt a little bit, insecure. I felt worthless. I felt tired. I felt, with my client today, we were unpicking friendships using that. And initially she's like, I just feel bad. So I'm like, well, let's dig a little bit deeper. And other things that came up was I feel insecure, I feel unheard, I feel helpless, I
need to buy that.
Irritated.
I can already see how I can use that.
It's really, really good. And you do have child-friendly versions as well. There's a really good children's book called Visiting Feelings that I recommend to all parents with younger children. And it really discusses feelings that come, feelings that go, what feelings feel like. Are they spiky? Are they heavy? Are they light? It just describes what they've got inside and puts words to it. And so that one can start to model with our children.
I mean, I'm still at the level of there is a monster in your book, personally.
It's fine.
But I feel like with my child, I'm learning, and every stage, it's a great way of lifting yourself up as well.
And don't just wait for his issues to come up. You be the model and say, do you know what? Today was a tough day. I had this client, or I was stuck in traffic, and do you know what? I think I felt stressed. No, I actually think, do you know what? I felt frustrated. I felt irritated. So you model to him and use yourself, because children, as I'm sure you know, they don't do what you tell them to do. They do what they see.
Yeah.
And if he sees that mummy is using these words, and it's not just a one-time thing. And I say to parents, like, this is a lifestyle change in terms of how the conversations I start to have with my child, and obviously age appropriate. But I think one of the really powerful things as well with children is, on the theme of making them feel safe to feel their feelings, is normalize having difficult feelings. Because so often children think mummy and daddy have it all figured out, and you don't, sorry, but none of us adults do. We're still trying to figure out how to be an adult. But actually seeing mummy feels nervous, she feels scared. Oh, but this is how she's working through it. And so I'm showing him it's safe to feel this feeling. It's not bad to feel this feeling, and I'm working through the feeling. That's very different to, don't worry, you'll be fine, or we just don't really share. And obviously I'm not saying share all your struggles with your child, but bring in some human element to that, because so many children I work with think, well, daddy's super confident, or mummy's never made mistakes. And I think, let's shift that. And I know that I did that with my parents. You put them on this pedestal thinking they've got it all figured out. And I just think it's showing your child, I don't need to be scared of these feelings. They're uncomfortable, but we're going to work through them.
And we'll manage.
And we'll manage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There is an end part to it, which I think is a empowering feeling.
That sense
have.
of I'm capable to work through this, and even saying it out loud. Do you know what? This is tough right now, and I'm feeling really sad.
I'm a very big girl now, but my mom being open with me and sharing with me, like, she moved to the UK a few years back, and she had to start career all over here. It was so empowering for me as a child. at any age, I think having our parents showing us that they're real,
that they're human,
and that they are capable of working through it. It's like, I always have in the back of my mind, she did it, I can do it. Like, it's they are always our role models at any age. So I think it's never too late to start.
And when you get it wrong, you can go back and repair and apologize like you did there. That was beautiful, because you're showing your child what to do when they're going to get it wrong, because they're not perfect.
None of us are. Yeah. You touched on resilience as well just a minute ago. I think personally resilience is probably in the modern society, when there are so many of us and every sphere has so much competition, you know. Resilience is very important skill. How do you teach it to children in the modern society? We had another episode with an RAF pilot here, and she said, well, nobody fails anymore, you know. And I thought, oh my God, like it became just another step harder. How do we teach our kids resilience?
Do you know, it's so interesting, because I'm having a lot of conversations at the moment with my clients who are about 10, 11, 12. I think the children attaching their self-worth to those external factors, the stories they start to tell themselves about, you know, if I achieve well, then I'm good enough. And so there's that pressure. But I think a big part of the resiliency piece as well is, I don't think we really pay much attention or normalize the difficulty, the fact that actually, let's become comfortable with the uncomfortable feelings of doing something that is hard. And that when I feel the resistance, when I feel the frustration, when I feel the disappointment, because it's not easy. And we also live in a society where instant gratification is just instant. And as I said as well, you know, we see other people's success on a highlight reel. And that's what we see. So we just think, well, it's easy for them because they've got all the confidence. It's easy for him because he's very talented at football, or for her because she's a good singer. But we don't actually see the messy bit. And I know Brene Brown talks a lot about this as well, around, you know, that messy middle, and kind of like when the caterpillar is in the cocoon and it becomes a butterfly, we just see the caterpillar and the butterfly, but we don't see like that slush and all the stuff that goes on in the cocoon, and it's all horrible and yucky. And that's what building resilience is. And it's also reframing my relationship with failure, because if I fail at something, that doesn't mean I'm not good at something. That just means I'm building a skill. And it doesn't mean I have to be look, there might be some things that I'm never going to be good at, but I can improve on that. I can build the skill. And I think that's where we've got it all the wrong way around, in that we're not allowing ourselves to recognize and actually see, when I feel that resistance with building resilience, that's not a sign for me to stop. That might be a sign to pause, to take a break, but it's a sign that I need to carry on, because that's me building that muscle.
I agree, you know, wholeheartedly, but in real life, for myself or
it's
for
hard.
my son, it's very hard. And I'm sure you can tell us what are the small everyday actions, tips, words we can implement in our households.
Great question. Love it. A few different things. Teach your child how their brain works. To help them understand, you know, there's a brilliant book, I do actually have mine, by the way. I should actually give a shout out to mine. Stretch Your Confidence and Find Your Power, where we go into what happens in your brain when you make mistakes, when you get things wrong. Really understanding that when I make mistakes and I get things wrong, my brain is literally growing more little brain cells. It's getting stronger. It's making new neural connections.
I did not know that. Not that.
You know, we've got, and obviously there's a lot more neuroscience behind it. Yeah. I'm really digesting it. I mean, one of the things that I do with children is we make Bob the brain cell from pipe cleaners. And the idea is that every time I make a mistake or I do something hard or something new, go and make another friend for Bob. How many mistakes are you making? Also, let's reframe mistakes. Okay, so this didn't work. Okay, you know what? It's really hard. It makes sense you feel this way. This was really important to you. Now let's sit in the feeling for a bit. And now what? What can I do differently? What do I know now that I didn't know before? So I encourage children to look for the power within their mistake, because every mistake has a power or a lesson moment. And I also love helping kids really see, let's look at someone who we think is successful. I mean, I work with quite a few boys that love footballers, want to be a footballer. Right, perfect. Let's go take Messi. Now I want you to do research of all the times he missed goals, of when he was not picked up for a squad, stuff that he lost. That is what made him successful, not all his wins. Those were the real moments when he didn't give up, when he didn't say, I can't do this, and he tapped out. Those moments when he decided to get back up, decided to upskill himself, decided to do something different, that's what made him successful. And so we shift that narrative. And again, as a family, come home around the dinner table when you're talking to kids. Hi, who's had, one of this, and this actually came from one of my clients years ago, who we turned his mistakes into yes moments. So, because he was a little perfectionist, he was doing his 7+ exams, which some families do, and could not make mistakes, would meltdown. So I said, let's turn it into a game. Every mistake you make, go record it, and we're going to high five, and you're going to tell me what did you learn from that. And when I got there, the next session, whenever it was, I mean, he came up with a list of different things that he had learned. He couldn't find the letter A on the typewriter, the keyboard, but now he knew where it was. And so what is your yes moment? Who's had a yes moment today? Let's shift the narrative. And again, it comes back to, what are you modeling? What are your children seeing you do when you make mistakes? Do they see you berate yourself, beat yourself up, get really angry, which is all human? Or do they see you being like, okay, this is tough, and actually, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently the next time?
I was very rough with myself with my first business, but now with the podcast, actually, I'm trying to model to him, like, we just switched our cards to iPad, and I'm like, look, I learned that, or I was reading too much notes during. I'll share with him, like, I had this interview, but I was reading too many, of my notes. Next time, I'll try to do less of it. Like, it's a progress. Or like, first video we had 1,000 likes, but second one was 10,000 likes.
Exactly.
Right?
And so we're normalizing also the progress. Let's look at the progress versus the outcome. And a reframe around that is, it's just an experiment. Let's just experiment and see. We're going to play this game and experiment. It goes this way. We're going to experiment this method in math. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything about me. And that's also something, I think, when it comes to resilience. Yes, there's the frustration tolerance, the regulating emotions, dealing with the difficult feelings, which is a skill that we're helping our children build. But it's also, what am I making this struggle mean about me?
I agree again. And again, it's very hard in real life. I think as parents, we can create quite a bit of shame around making mistakes, and unintentionally. In no way I want to shame my son, but I think, like, let's say he keeps forgetting his uniform or something to school, and I'll be like,
Like, again, we're here again. How many times are we doing this? And you should know, you're 10.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I used maybe a bit harsher words, but yes.
I get it.
And then, like, that doesn't make him more resilient. I mean, maybe 2 words, but that doesn't empower him in any way to get his things together. And I'm one of the nice ones. Like, I'm sure there's much more shame going on in families.
And it's good you say that, because I think one of the things to remember, and this is for all parents, when it comes to being organized, transition, flexibility, adapt from one thing to another, transitions, getting your uniform, remembering your PE kit, no matter how many times you do it with your child, that is the part of the brain that's not yet fully developed, right? So a few things here to help you is, instead of thinking he should remember his uniform all the time. And by the way, this doesn't give him a green card to be like, right, well, I'm not going to do anything because my brain's not fully developed. No, he's going to do a lot and he's not going to like it, and that's okay. But can I manage my expectations differently? Can I be like, okay, him forgetting his uniform all the time tells me he still needs to develop the skill of being more organized. How can we help him develop the skill? Let's create a visual timetable. Bring him in to create the visual timetable. Now, I get it. This is going to take some time, right? I get that. Time's going to pass. And would you rather invest a bit of time? And I'm not saying this is all going to be sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, but children also, you have to remember with things like that, children need, it's all in our head, right? We've got years of experience on this planet. Kids are in the moment, no matter how well they can tell the time when they want to tell the time. When they don't want to tell the time and they're in the moment playing the game, they don't want to tell the time. But they're so present with what they're doing. And giving them, right, okay, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. That visual reminder is one way to do that. And I think as well, again there, it might be you've got to do things you don't want to do. And it's allowing that feeling, I get this is hard. I know you don't want to do this. And I know this is really, really difficult. And right now I'm being such a pain telling you to do this. And here's the thing. I know you can do hard things. And I love you even if you're angry with me.
So it's again back to change of language. Like instead of shame and pressure, it's like, I know you can do it. I know this is hard. But
and
if you want to get to school,
and you're still going to do it. So it's not about just meeting them in the emotion, because we talk about mirroring, because what I want to do is I want to meet them in the feeling, because if we think about their brain, their emotional brain is far more developed than that logical rational reasoning part of the brain. So I want to, and it's leading with empathy, right? I'm much more inclined to be a better leader if I can really empathize with you and connect with you, and then I can pull you to where we need to go, versus I come and dictate and I'm like, you should do this, right? Because it makes you feel isolated, makes you feel alone. So meeting them in that emotion, and by the way, this is a skill, this is a practice. You're not going to want to do this, but the more I can meet and connect first, and then we redirect. Not Dr. Daniel Amen, Dr. Daniel Siegel talks about, connect before you redirect. And it very is much that, like, do you know what, this is hard. It makes sense. And right now you really don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this. And we still have to do it. And it's going to happen. And I know you don't like it, it's going to happen. And the part here that is difficult, because we want the quick fix, sometimes they're going to have the really big feeling, and you have to allow that feeling. It doesn't mean you let them get what they want, but at the end of the day, I'm the adult here, and their job is not to be easy for me. Their job is to have big emotions.
To feel safe to feel
and I'm making them feel safe to feel this. I know you don't like this, and you're allowed to be mad. Obviously there's a different conversation when we get hit and so forth like that, but it's not okay we'll do what you want to do because you've got this big emotion. It's like, no. And if you've not, and children also need boundaries. They need boundaries, because if they don't have boundaries, it makes them feel really anxious. It's the same as if I put you in this room and it's dark and there's no lights, and you find your way around the room because you can feel where the walls are. But what's going to happen if the walls automatically start moving? And then you're like, well, where are they? That's what boundaries are with our children. And once they know where those boundaries are, I'm not saying it's easy to get there. It's not. And the real challenge as well is, in the world that we're in, our parents are not supported. Society is not supporting our parents enough. So you don't have the emotional bandwidth. You are exhausted. And then you feel like it's your fault that your child doesn't listen to you. But they will push the boundaries. And our job is to hold those safe boundaries. And it's part of the hard bit of parenting. And this is the bit that we think we get wrong, when in actual fact, this is a part of it.
Yeah. I feel like I'll cut this part of the podcast and I'll listen to it every morning before getting out of my room, just on repeat to be ready for the day. But it is very good. I think boundaries is definitely what came to me personally after a decade. But now it's also wording around the boundaries.
It's the wording.
Because our parents definitely had the boundaries,
Yeah.
But then there was very little explanation.
Yeah.
But the two together can be a very empowering, very powerful, very safe place to grow up. Like, when you say it, I'm like, yes. Like,
and I know when people might listen to me like, oh, Natalie, I don't have the time, but they just need to do what I have to tell them to do. I get that. But the minute you're in a power struggle with your child, you've lost. You don't want to be in a power struggle, because there is no power struggle. You are the adult putting the boundaries in place, but I can put the boundaries in place from a space of love and safety. When I say safety, them feeling safe, or the boundaries are in a place of fear. Do as I say, right? And not, just don't answer. And I understand, like, this is a real It's not giving your child. For me, my whole approach is compassionate, assertive parenting. I can be compassionate, but I can be assertive, and you're not going to cross that boundary. Not because I'm going to do anything, but I'm sturdy. And I think this is the other thing. Don't be afraid of their feelings. Because I work a lot with parents that are like, but I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and I understand. It's a lot when you're on the receiving end of those big emotions. I understand. It's draining, and sometimes you just don't want that. But energy, kids can feel our energy. And if they feel, they will feel when you are not feeling sturdy and you're afraid. And I see this all the time with the families that I work with. And once we've got the strategies in place, and I'm not saying it's easy to get there, and I'm not saying every single strategy works for every family, but one thing that always comes out is, I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I don't feel like I'm dreading coming home anymore, because I've got the tools. And what one mum said to me recently, she's like, I know I can cope. And remembering that, and also, like I say to parents, some seasons are going to be really hard, but it's not going to be your forever season, and we can forget that.
And it's a long game.
It's a long game.
And it's better to enforce your boundaries like once or twice for a period, and then you have them forever.
Yeah.
That's something I learned actually, because we are a blended family. So my partner is not a biological, not a biological,
different dynamics as well.
Not a biological father of my child. And I remember when he started living with us, he was like, I don't know how to tell this to you, but it's you. It's not your kid. You're the problem. And I was like, excuse me, like, how can the door is there, But then I reflected on it, and I was like, I get it. And he was like, but with me, he's not like that. Because I say in the nicest, loving way, now my child calls him a father, but in the nicest way, he was like, you can do this with me, and that's it. But he was very firm and very loving. Yeah. And he was like, but you're like, 5 minutes of telly, this, that. And then the kid is like, okay.
Yeah, and now I know I can play this game with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly it. Is what one dad said to me last year. He said, this is all about me. And it's about us. And I often say to parents, it's about a part of you reparenting a part of yourself, being a parent to that younger you that you didn't have, not because your parents weren't good. Parenting was very different, and our parents didn't know. And they most likely didn't get that from their parents, right? So we're trying to break a pattern here. But that doesn't mean I go, because what I do see is we go the other way when then there's no boundaries. Can I put a boundary in place? Yes, we put the boundary in place. And I think, it's having compassion for yourself on the way as well.
We are learning.
Oh, 100%.
I'm a decade into this, and I'm learning every day.
Every day.
Every day. Quick pause. If this conversation is resonating with you, if you're thinking about your own family or the way we can support our kids today, take a second to follow or subscribe. It really helps us keep bringing you these honest conversations that rarely happen but really matter. Now, back to it. I think, all this, let's say we put the boundaries and we're compassionate and we're encouraging and we look at mistakes as, stepping stones to success. We do all of what we discussed just now. Then we can get very easily to another spectrum where everything is again perfect and very nice. And I think children grow up with another unrealistic idea of the world where perfectionism, again, the social media, do you have that in your practice?
Yeah, I think one of the things I remind parents of daily is like, because again, the perfectionism, the expectations that they have of themselves and what they should do and what society tells us. And again, let's unpick that. Where does this perfectionism or this need, these expectations come from? And the other thing as well, like if we're talking about being perfect, the other side as well is around, it's not about raising happy kids, it's about raising children with the tools to be able to deal with all of the feelings, happiness being one of them. Right?
Yes.
And that goes in with things are not perfect.
I just mean we started with, what are the 3 lucky things you found today? Who are your friends? What are you grateful for? It all can become quite
Right.
toxic as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
I just had a shitty day today,
Yeah,
Mom. Like,
yeah,
everything was shitty,
yeah.
you know,
And that is good. I mean, I just had a call with one of my clients today, and she's had a really tough time with her friends, and she's in a tough place. And I said, you know what? Be sad just for today. Allow yourself just to sit in these feelings, because they're big feelings. They're uncomfortable. And I mean, she's in Australia, so it was like her 7 p.m. So I was like, you're not going to be here for long, but just allow yourself to feel these feelings for today. And obviously we looked at strategies for tomorrow. And in the scavenger hunt, 3 things so with that, and I'm totally with you, this is not about toxic positivity, because my biggest pet peeve is, I might put parents off, is when parents come to me and say, I just want my child to be happy. And I get it. But we want them to have the tools to deal with the unhappy feelings, to feel the unhappy feelings, and to work through them, and to know that they will work through them, right?
So let's say your conversation with the client today.
Mm.
Let's say we are having a dinner and my son is going like, oh my God, I had the shittiest day. Everything was awful, you know. I hated the food. Like, everything was awful. And I go, well, honey, surely you can find 3 good things that
you
happened
wouldn't say
today.
that. No. Your first port of call with any conversation with your child, meet them in their emotion.
Okay. So
even if
let's
you don't,
do the steps. Yeah.
So even if you don't agree with their emotion, you want to meet them there because it's real for them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? That sounds really tough. Sounds like you've had a really hard day. Do you want to tell me more about it? Or, that sounds interesting. Tell me a bit more. Help me understand. Lean in with curiosity. Again, step into their experience. It's the same as if, you go to your partner. I'm sure this has happened. I don't know. But, and you go like, today's just been such a crap day. This and this and this and this and this happened and this and this. And then they try fix it. Or they try to tell you, well, just calm down. It doesn't work, right? Whereas if they said, do you know what? That sounds rough. Do you know what? It sounds like it was really hard for you. It makes sense. Tell me a bit more if you want to tell me a bit more. See the difference there?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you want to do with your child there.
And what do we do after? Because you just said, when you talked about your client, and you said, obviously, we spoke about the techniques for tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I mean,
not
it was
obvious.
a full hour.
Yeah.
It was a long, long hour session with her.
But so we meet in the middle.
We meet in the middle. We meet them where they're at. Questions to ask, depending on the scenario here as well, but questions with your child then is, what would you like? Would you like my help? Do you just want me to listen? Do you want a hug? Sometimes we just forget that. Sometimes your child just wants to tell you it's been a shitty day. And I just want somebody to listen. I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I just want you to listen, right? So those questions, do you need a hug? Do you want advice? Do you just want me to listen? What do you want? I also, depending on where you're at, so always meet them where you're at. And then depending on, again, with the scenario, but if it's a shitty day, don't have to look for the 3 positive things right there and then. So sometimes, like with my client, I'm like, do you know what? Be sad today. Allow yourself to be sad because it's tough. Your friends are leaving you out. They're talking about you on TikTok. It's not fun. It's horrible. It makes sense. And then we went on to, because obviously I'm paid to give her tools, and I sat with her for a while. It didn't just go like that. We had an hour. But then we also went on and I said, and as hard as this is, my sweetheart, you also have a choice. What story are you choosing to tell yourself in this situation about these people? Who are you choosing to spend your time with? And I know this is hard. I said to her, I'm asking you to do a big thing here. I said, but you can choose to tell yourself the story that they don't like me and I'm the worst and nobody likes me, and keep putting energy down that pathway. Or can I start to tell myself a different story of, hold on, I am a good friend. I am a good person. I belong where I'm valued. Who are 2 people I could start to connect with? Now, obviously, I didn't just jump there. I got her to draw her feeling of bad. I got her to use the emotions wheel where we looked at specifically, she's like, and she's a smart 12-year-old, 13-year-old. She's like, I'm bad. I'm like, listen, we need better words than that. Like, you're not 5 years old. We picked up 10 to 12 words. So I just gave her space. And then it was like, okay, and here's the thing. I know this is hard. And I also know this. So not but, and I also know this. And then I still said to her, I said, look, but you're allowed to feel sad. And maybe what you need is just a sad evening. sit in it. And obviously I messaged her mum and told her to, like, just to be mindful. And that's what we do with our children. It's depending on the scenario, and sometimes even...
And what if you think it's a scenario just like you described, there's some friends, you know, they argued, and you think, well, I know my son or I know my daughter. Maybe she or he did something wrong because they are also not perfect. How do we address that? Because I struggle with, like, he can get very shut if I'm like, well, honey, did you do your sarcastic? Like, he's very sarcastic and very smart. And I'm like, did you put some jokes that maybe were a bit too much? And then he's like, it's always me. Of course, it's not always him.
That's the shame that's underneath that in the moment. And again, you know, what I also would say is it's not necessarily what you do always in the moment. These are the things and the conversations that we have outside of the moment, when we're away from the heat of the moment. It also comes out with maybe the next day. You're like, do you know what I was thinking? Yesterday you were quite upset about your friends, and you know what? I got so caught up in what you were telling me about your friends and what was going on. I didn't actually really think of what was going on for you. Help me understand. And also, if you think he's done something, it's like, oh, that's really interesting. Why do you think your friend might have said that? What might be possible things? And then even with some cases like that, you know, where because, I mean, let's think about it. If somebody has to say to you, are you sure you weren't sarcastic? Versus if somebody said to you, do you know what I'm thinking about? Sometimes I'm thinking about the fact, you know, that I can be a little bit sarcastic with friends, and I'm thinking, I didn't know if that's quite the right response. I'm wondering if I should do something. Do you see the difference there?
I see it.
Right?
It's hard to do in the moment.
It's so hard. It's so hard. But that's why I always say to parents, the heat of the moment is never the teachable moment. And if your child is upset there, the main aim there is I want to de-escalate, because the part of their brain that you need to be switched on, that's not really, you know, it's still busy forming, that's gone offline. So can we talk about this next day? And even from the stance of, you know, I didn't really understand it from your point of view.
You know, it's the same in HR, to be honest, in big companies.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, adults are just big kids, you know, well, it's a kid in a big body. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And I think and so much of this as well is around, again, if he is sarcastic. And, you know, one of the things is like, well, then there's also maybe an opportunity to teach empathy in terms of being in each other's shoes, and also understanding again that this is a skill. Friendships is a skill that kids need to learn. We've never been taught how to be a friend. You know, it's just like assumed. But actually thinking, okay, what is it that you ideally would like in a friendship? How would you like to feel? How would you like that friend to be? You know, safe, friendly, caring, funny, whatever those values are. Okay, so if I want to have this friend, who do I need to be to attract that friend? Can I be somebody that's always sarcastic? Can I be somebody that's always not willing to share? So that's also a really great exercise to do. And
I love it for adults and kids. Yeah.
And not every friend as well, because I have this big bugbear about best friends. I think it puts a lot of pressure on children, and that one person, my BFF, needs to do everything. Whereas helping them identify, okay, these are different values that I have within a friend. Okay, but what does Stacey have? What does Mohammed have? They might have similar values, but they might not have all of the values, or, you know, and that's okay. But obviously, if too many of those values or characteristics aren't there, then maybe that's not my friend, or the right friend for me, you know.
Yeah, and also kids grow so quickly and evolve, and who was your friend in nursery might not be your friend in middle school.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and that's also okay.
Yeah. I do. I mean, I love, it's not my saying, but I do love that saying of, you know, reason, season, lifetime. And I shared that with my client today. I said, some friends come for a reason, some for a season, some for a lifetime. You might not even have met your lifetime friends yet. And that's always given me comfort when friendships change, because they come into your life teaching you, giving you different things.
And I think as adults, you know, I grew apart with some friends when my child was small. I didn't have time. It was just not a season for friendships, and then they grow up and you have more time, and then it's like nothing is forever. It's just this moment of time, and it needs to be positive. Amazing. I feel like I've learned so much today. So we talked about perfectionism, we talk about toxic positivity, you know. I feel like we're unfolding a lot of important topics here, anxiety, and then I think there is quite a bit of pressure to perform as well. Yeah, I think in my son's class at least, everybody's doing sports, everybody's doing some kind of music, you know, everybody, the peer pressure, even if I don't agree with that, he will still be under that pressure a lot. What do we do about that?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I think, you know, parents, you know, conversations I have with parents, you want to give your child opportunity, access, things that you never had as a child. You want to give a child learning opportunities. But I do think, where is the space? Where is the space to just be bored as well? Because that leads to creative space. And again, it goes back to what we spoke about earlier around the pressure from the Western society, more in terms of that success orientated achieve. Whereas actually what I'm really interested in is, how do I connect to myself? How do I get validation from within versus outside of myself? And that's, you know, that's a big challenge, I think. And I think as for every family, it's different. I think a question to ask is, does your child enjoy all these activities?
Not all the time,
Not all
obviously.
the time.
Yeah.
And do they need to do all of the activities? And also, what are we modeling sustainably to our children? You know, I'm just thinking of some conversations with some clients where there was one family that the daughter did loads of different areas, drama, gymnastics, music, It was a lot. I was like, I'd be exhausted if I was her. But her daughter was older and mature enough to recognize by the end of like the season, she's like, actually, I don't want to do gymnastics anymore because I'm too tired. But there was a lot of coaching that was involved in terms of the conversations we have around that, in terms of, how do I feel after I do different things, and what do I do to replenish myself? How do I, because we're not a Duracell little rabbit bunny, you know, we need to recharge. Now, recharging for some of us will look like sports, will look like drama. But I think it's also being really mindful of what's going to work for you and your family.
I guess what I was trying to say, I might think, okay, actually it's too much for my son, but then all the other children are doing that. So then he's coming back and he's like, well, I don't play any music instrument, you know, I'm the only one, or I'm the only one who is not. So how do we then instill that confidence from within against peer pressure?
Yeah, good question.
Sorry.
No. It's a really good question, and it's not a straightforward answer, because my question is, there's always going to be someone in life doing something that you can't do. So if I'm playing the game of doing things that everybody else is doing, what's that teaching my child? That you've got to look outside of yourself for validation, versus what do I need? What does my body need right now? And actually, do you know what? Right now, this is what we're doing. And it also depends on cost, right? Not all families can afford to do all these things. And I think it's a tough question to deal with. A few things in terms of building internal security kind of builds on this, and it doesn't, but I love doing the character strengths, and it's a quiz that kids and like a questionnaire kids and parents can do. Don't know if you've come across it, but like our unique character strengths is 27 of 27, I think, of them. But it's things like curiosity, humility, bravery, zest for life, love of learning, love of outdoors, or something like that. But it's gratitude was one. It's what I inherently love and am good at. And it basically helps you identify your top 5. And that's great, because you can't assess that. And so how do we do things for them that builds their inherent character strengths versus those external skills? It's helping your child build that sense of, I am lovable as I am, versus I have to do this to be lovable. I mean, and there is a bit of work that I do around teaching parents how to work with a part of their child's brain at a subconscious level, where we instill those core beliefs of, you are lovable as you are.
How?
And so obviously I can't give the full method here because that's what people pay me for, but it's a method that was created in the 80s by a lady called Joan Golding, and it's about working with a part of the subconscious mind when the child is asleep. where parents say a set of statements, a particular set of statements that works with that part of the brain that's driving often those big behaviors of anxiety or fear. But what that fully instills is those core beliefs of I am lovable, I am worthy, I am good enough just as I am. Those are the core beliefs, right? And our core beliefs, as we know, are formed in our formative years, 0 to 7, 7 to 12. And that forms a part of our subconscious mind. And our behavior today is down to a lot of the programming that we received in our subconscious, in our formative years. And so a big part of this is, and I always say this to parents, like, tell your child they are lovable. It's very different to I love you. But you are lovable means you are loved regardless of what you do, what you say. You are so lovable. I am so lovable. Now, and obviously, there's a lot more around that, but that's another way to build that internal sense of security. And what are you modeling to your child? It's about security. Am I modeling that I've got to keep up with the Joneses all the time? Or am I modeling that actually I'm connecting to myself, I'm doing something that makes me happy? If it's creativity is one of my character strengths, I'm taking out paint by numbers, or I'm building Lego blocks, because that's something that's important to me. Help your child begin to identify what is it that I need a chocolate chip cookie, right? But it's I guess what I'm trying to say is, and there's no quick fix for this, but it's learning to tap into being connected to myself versus I've got to do what everybody else is doing.
And for that, again, we need space. And space is something I personally struggle with. I have a single child. His schedule is very busy because whenever we have space, so weekends we usually try not to book anything unless they're games. It's a phone battle.
Yeah.
It's a battle against technology.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's a real challenge.
Free time is, although we set times, we have schedule, we've done it's only 1 hour of technology allowed on the weekend, it's a battle all day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah.
And how do we, is there...
that's what I said to the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's like, am I prepared to take on board what's going to come when I give them this device? I think there's a few things there. Look, I think expect it's going to be hard. Don't even tell yourself, I expect them to come up. Like, okay, this is going to be a challenge. We can do hard things. We'll get through this,
We can
right?
do hard things, yes.
And I think, what I often try and do with families, and I've done this with a few families, is... Again, it's that outside conversations, setting expectations about, do you know what? You really love your technology. Again, we're meeting them in the experience. I've always been on and on about you playing this game and telling you it's so stupid, but I've never really thought about how important it is to you. Tell me a bit more about it. Let me learn about it. You do some research on the games he's playing and say, do you know what I read today about this character and this character? Do you know you can do that? Your son's going to be like, whoa, what's happened to mother? Like, what's going on here?
Cool.
Well, what's happened? But why you're doing that is because it's his language,
yeah,
right? So you're meeting him in his world. You're letting him know this is important to me. And then it's also a case of, look, but screen time, let's be honest, it's a battle. Because I'm on your case, I'm annoying, I get angry, you get angry, it's not good. You want to play on your game, and I want you to be happy. I want you to play on your game. But I also have a job to look after you. My job is to look after your brain, to keep you safe, whether you like that or not. So how are we going to solve this challenge together? And so the idea is very much it's you and me against the challenge of the technology instead of me versus you and technology. So then it is, let's come up with a power plan. What does that look like? What are the games you're going to play? How long are you going to play for? And what is it going to look like to come off those games? And also, what are you going to do after the game? Because if you've got a screen activity, you've got to have an off-screen activity. That just comes with, if that's, if you don't want to do that, then we don't have the screen. Because at the end of the day, being on a phone, being on a device is not a right for them. They live in your house, you pay the bills. It's a luxury. So back in COVID days, I called it screen time and green time. So I'm on the screen, but then let's go outside, do something green, right? It's like just outside. So, and talk also about here the education piece around the importance for my brain. Just like eating too many sweets and chips and chocolates is bad for my body, too much technology is not going to be good for my brain. So what is, and have these expectations set from the beginning about what is your green activity going to be? Is it that you're kicking the football outside? Is it that you're, building Lego? Is it that you're doing, what does that look like? Okay, these are the expectations. And it's also then reminding them, say, for example, and have it up again, visual. Remind them, okay, so tomorrow we're going to do this new thing. Remind me again, what's your role in this? What's my role? Okay, I know you can do hard things. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be swimmingly beautiful, right? But also what you want to do is, instead of saying 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, before 5 or 10 minutes, before like 10 minutes, get into their world. Go and sit next to them, say, hey, oh, I didn't know you could do that. How did you do that? Oh, it's really fun. So listen, remember, we had a chat yesterday. I know you can do hard things. Well, I know you want to do the right thing. Tell me, what's your next plan after this? We're going to come off in 3 minutes. And I know you can do this.
This feels doable.
It feels doable. And I'm not saying they're going to be, okay, right, I'm finished. Then we'll be like, oh, I don't want to do this. That's fine. And even if they don't, then that's when we step in again there with the boundaries, right? And where we're like, do you know what? I get it. This is hard. I'm asking you to do a really hard thing because you're playing a game and it's making your brain want to play it even more. And right now my job is to keep your brain safe, and I'm going to switch it off. And I know you can do hard things. And I know if you're angry, that's okay. These are big feelings. But right now we're going to stop. And it's you're putting that, it's not like, oh, but you told me this, and da-da-da-da. Expect your child to actually not find that easy. But the more we establish that language and those boundaries.
You probably do it 10 times and it's...
Exactly. Yeah. And we've just got to push through that. And then afterwards, like, you might need to, I don't know what your vice is, if it's a glass of wine or whatever. It's like, that was tough, but we made it, right? Like, give yourself some space.
Get some green time.
Green time, exactly.
You mentioned quickly a word, anxiety.
Yeah.
How do we spot more and more children feel anxious nowadays? How do we spot early signs of anxiety to prevent, strong anxiety later in life?
I think, first of all, let's first know anxiety is normal to some extent. We need a bit of anxiety to prepare us for things, to keep us safe. So I think sometimes the word can be overused. I'm not saying, but it can be used a lot. I'm so anxious, when actually, no, this is a normal human response before a presentation, before changing schools, before things like that.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's really important to remember. I think, again, it's yes, there is a lot that our children are faced with. Uncertainty and change is a big factor that triggers anxiety, because our brain likes to be certain. So with what they're seeing and hearing online and what they're faced with, there's a lot more noise around that. I think, it goes back to one of the things that I do with families is, let's normalize the thoughts I'm thinking. Let's become aware of the thoughts. Let's really, that's interesting. I'm noticing I'm having the thought that nobody likes me. Oh, okay. Is this thought really, so these are questions, we learn to catch these thoughts. There's multiple, and I always talk about, thoughts that make us feel mad, sad, worried, or upset. Let's catch that thought. Let's just okay, what does that thought say? And we create a character with younger kids. We create a character called my critic, and we give it a silly name. One of the boys I worked with called his Butthead, and Butthead makes his appearance when he does maths, when he does PE, but not when he does art. So it's also recognizing, okay, when do I notice more of these negative, anxious, worried thoughts? Okay, let's catch them. Let's actually write them down. Nobody likes me. Nobody wants to be my friend. I can't do it. What if I can't cope? What if someone laughs at me? Right? Let's catch these thoughts. And then let's start to challenge and reframe them, because they're just a story. It's just a story in our head. And the thing is, with these anxious thoughts, it's a pattern that we think over and over and over and over again. And yes, there's chemical imbalances and things. I'm not going to get into that. But it starts with, let's notice the story. And then let's reframe that. So with kids and families as well, it's around, is this thought I'm thinking really 100% true, that nobody likes me? I did this yesterday with a boy that was struggling in maths, and he's like, I can't do this. Fair enough, Roman numerals, I get you, it's hard. And I said to him, but is it really 100% true that you're never going to be able to do Roman numerals? Like never, ever, 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 ever? And he was like, no, it's not likely. It's like, there you go, right? So the answer, no. How does this thought make me feel? Bad, sad, upset? I often say, does it make you feel heavy or light? Kids are good at picking it up. And then I like to play what we call a thought detective. Let's look for 3 clues to prove that thought is not true. Can you think of 3 times you had 3 other instances you had to do something that was difficult, that you thought you couldn't do? and now you can. And I mean, it was twins yesterday. Both of them could give me different things. And I was like, okay. And then we might tune into the voice of our inner superhero, or in their case, Ronaldo, he loves Ronaldo. So I'm like, what would Ronaldo be telling himself? So we get a perspective of someone else. And often it would be a very different story to what we tell ourselves. So it's not about I'm bad at maths to now I'm amazing at maths. But I'm actually getting a bridging thought of, do you know what, actually?
I can give it a go.
I can give it a go. And so we start to change that chatter. And I think it's normalizing, again, those thoughts, because if I think back to my, with anxiety and so forth, you think it's only you. You think you're the only one that has these thoughts. And actually, if I can just actually give them a bit of space and let me just sit with them, write them down, let's really challenge them, I can then start to develop a new thinking pattern.
What I really love about the way you are speaking, you're not just giving them space, you're giving them contained space. Because I feel like if you give too much space for those thoughts, they can overtake a child, especially a child, or actually an adult too. But you're giving them a contained, controlled space, where it's almost like taking it out of your body.
Exactly. And we're looking at it and we're like, oh, let me inspect this. And one other thing I think, that's just been helpful for myself as well is, even let's say, there's been a lot of uncertainty when wars and things break up, and I don't have the answers for my child. What do I say to my child? And you might not have the answers. But I think always come back to, we can acknowledge there's a lot going on. We don't have all the answers. It feels scary not to have all the answers. But here's what I know right now. Right now, I know that I'm safe. Right now, I know that I've prepared all my papers for tomorrow's test. Right now, I know that I've still got time to prepare. So we bring that puppy back to, what do I know right now? And another game, sorry, because now there's a lot of games.
We love all the tools we can
another
get here.
Game is, what if it goes well? Because I'm so good at using my imagination for, it's going to go wrong and it's bad and nobody wants to be my friend and I can't do it. But let's just, okay, what if it goes well? And our brain does have a tendency to focus more on the negative than the positive, that negativity bias. But let me brainstorm 10 different ways of, well, what if it goes well? And I mean, I think there's a study done by Harvard that found that 89% of the things that we worry about actually never happen. And the other percentage that does generally isn't as bad as what we thought it would be. So we're very good at borrowing drama from the future, and it doesn't exist. And I think I'm not saying all, but what we need to do is to develop better thinking patterns. And that's the work that I started off doing. It's how can we start from a young age, train children up to develop better thinking patterns?
And it's great work you're doing.
Thank you.
I wish there was an hour a week taught just that in school.
Oh, I know.
That would just change.
I mean, imagine the world we'd live in.
It would be definitely a much kinder place. Yeah. First, starting with ourselves, being kinder to ourselves.
Exactly.
I know we could speak all night and all day and all week, but I have just a few more questions I don't want to skip. You mentioned word repair.
Yeah.
We haven't actually covered that. I read it in a book, and I'm also awful about remembering book names and book authors. But I read about repair before, and that helped me a lot, I think, to build a better relationship with my son. But I don't know if everyone who is listening to us is familiar with what repair means. So do you want to tell us about it?
I think repair to me is just you're being human. You're not perfect. And it's the ability to go back and own your mistake, or own where you didn't show up in the intentional present way that you wanted to. And you're modeling to your child what to do when they don't get it right all the time. And I think the repair phase, there's so many teachable moments there, because it's you are again meeting your child in that experience that they had. So you're allowing them to feel seen, heard, and understood in that experience that they had. And I'll make it more practical shortly. But B, you're also in those moments teaching your child how I'm going to work through this feeling the next time. And it also helps your child and you make sense of what happened. It creates a bit of a story around, because our brain likes a story. So when I can go back and repair and say, do you know what, it was tough yesterday, and I shouted at you, and I raised my voice when I was trying to get you, when we were trying to have dinner and you were still on your game. And I know that was, I got all caught up in my feelings, whatever it was, and I didn't even think of what it felt like for you. Help me understand. You're not giving permission, but you're just allowing them to feel heard. And it makes sense you feel that way. Do you know what? I didn't think about that. And they might say something you're like, oh, actually, because how often, think about it, every altercation you have with your child, a power struggle, getting them to do something they don't want to do, you felt those exact same feelings, doing things you don't want to do, right? Being told to come somewhere when you don't want to go there. We've all had those feelings. And so just allowing that to be there. And then also, do you know what? This is what I'm going to try and do the next time, because I'm also learning about my big feelings. And I'm learning to be more steady, to not let them have so much power over me. Here are some things that I'm doing, breathing or move it to lose it is something with anger and like big emotions. Sometimes we just need to move our body in a safe way to lose the big feeling. Well, let's come up with a code word. The next time we both go like this, we're going to use a code word. That means we just need a minute. And then we can come back because the feelings are too big. And I think with repair, it's also being compassionate with yourself of no wonder I'm finding this hard. No wonder I snapped at my child because I've got 50 things on the go. I'm exhausted. I'm feeling unappreciated. And I feel like I'm doing a bad job. It's not true, but that's what I feel like. And no wonder I felt the way I did. And I'm learning too.
And that comes back to showing the realness to our children.
Yeah, because you're human. We're all human, and we're not going to get it right all the time.
No.
And I think having that compassion can go a really long way.
And I think that's a great way to summarize everything we spoke about, because repair is more powerful than perfection that we talked about, more powerful than, many things that society expects of us. And if we model that humbleness and reality of life, then hopefully our kids will cope better with every day as well.
Yeah, and also know it's that you're doing the best you can, and have the faith that they will cope, and they are here on their own journey with their own lessons that they need to learn. They're their own little entity. And when I say to parents, like parents listening to this, you are here because you want to learn. You already are doing so much right, because parents often feel like I'm not doing enough, or I'm not doing the right thing. But the fact that you're here, that you're listening to this, that this has even come up on your feed or whatever that is, means that you're doing a brilliant job. And that's not being patronizing, but it's like,
at least you're trying
you're
to.
aware. Yeah, that's the thing. You're aware, right? And that's 50% of the battle won.
Few more questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's take a toddler, 9 to 12 years old, and then teens. What would be like one strategy you would equip parent with to cope with stressful situations?
With
each
toddlers. Toddlers up to like 10. One strategy to cope with stressful situations. I think it comes back to, what am I doing to first ground myself? Mm-hmm. How am I keeping myself steady and regulated and grounded? Because it starts with me. It doesn't start with my child. So for me, I love the psychological sigh. It sounds, and it's something to practice, but it is, where you take a deep breath into your lungs, and then you breathe a little bit more, and then you slowly exhale through
the mouth.
Mouth. And it's really powerful. So I breathe in into my tummy right now, it might be in my chest, and then in again a little bit more, and then slowly out. It's a long air out breath. And we do that 3 or 4 times. I mean, even that, and I know that I was breathing a little bit incorrectly there because I'm not sitting it right, but it's got to be me first, because a dysregulated adult cannot calm down a dysregulated child, and that's a real practice. It does, like I said, it doesn't come easy. So I think that's one of the things, and I think with tweens, and I think this comes with both of them, but it is managing your expectations. And whilst, okay, you said one strategy for each, but this does apply for the younger ones too. But with teens and tweens,
you're answering, yeah.
With teens and tweens, I think manage your expectations of them, because I think parents can often get frustrated when it's this big-bodied person and they are not doing anything that you want them to do. And we can often put a lot of pressure on, and fair enough, you know, they're not 5, but they are still a child. They're not a mini adult. Even more so, through those tween and teen years, they're going to have big heightened emotions because that part of their brain is undergoing so much change. If we're thinking about, you know, the neurons firing and wiring and neural connections being pruned away, basically all the things that go on in a toddler, you know, all the big emotions, because a lot of the brain development going on then, same thing's happening in tween and teen years.
Plus hormones.
Right? So they are feeling emotions more intensely. And there was a study done where they showed adults' facial expressions, teens and tweens' facial expressions. And the adults could identify that's happy, that's neutral, that's angry or sad or whatever. But when they showed those same facial expressions to tweens and teens, they saw emotion that wasn't there. So they saw anger that wasn't there, judgment that wasn't there. Think about it with teens and tweens as well. It's like, what are you looking at? But don't shout at me. And you've not raised your voice at all. You're like, can you just put the cup away? So it is more heightened as well. So managing the expectations there, that just because they're big, physically, they're still a child. And that part of their brain's only fully developed by their mid-20s. And so it's not my child should, but my child still needs to develop the skill of managing disappointment, dealing with frustration. We're meeting them there. And I think as well, for both, in terms of strategies, it's like, some days it's just going to be hard, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It's a hard day because it's a human day. And some seasons might feel harder than others, but every season passes.
It all passes so quickly.
It does.
It all passes so quickly. It definitely does.
It does, I know.
Last question. Given your amazing background, you know, if you could wave a magic wand and one thing would be added to school curriculums, what would it be?
One? That's hard. I think definitely emotional and mental fitness, 100%. Because a stressed child can't thrive. A stressed child can't communication, connections. I mean, another important thing I think should be on there is financial literacy, but a stressed child can't do math and understand numbers. So for me, it's how do we learn to connect with ourselves, because we're so disconnected from ourselves. And how do I build the tolerance to feel all my emotions, not just the good ones, but I've got the capacity to feel the difficult ones.
I know this was the last question, but this one is very important for me. I struggle with the connect to ourselves phrase because I feel like the other spectrum of that, we have such a selfish society.
Right, interesting.
We still live in a society, and how to teach myself and my children and people around me, you know, how do we come to the place where I connect with myself, I love myself, I respect my boundaries, but not at expense of other people.
So, just to understand your question, is it that you...
Like, you know, it's very, I call it the Instagram psychology. Like, there's so many young adults now who will be like, but it's my boundary. And you're like, okay, what about the rest of the people in the team, let's say, working on a project? Or what about, you know, the other guy who's been pulling all-nighter last night? Like, do we all just deal with our own boundaries now, and that's the healthy way? Or is there a way where your boundaries can sometimes...
Oh, yeah. And I hear you. I think everything with online goes the one way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, how are we being human and kind and empathetic? Compassion.
Yeah.
If it's just me. So it's not about being selfish. And sometimes, I mean, I'm not going to, you know, sometimes it is, I've got to put a boundary in place because I'm overextending and there's nothing left to give to anyone else.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's not what...
And that's where boundaries are important. But I think connecting to myself is recognizing who am I? And again, a 4-year-old's not going to answer this, but it's who, like, loving myself. What does it look like to love myself? What does it look like to love my community? To love the planet I'm on? So that's like the whole, you know, my big purpose is to raise a generation of connected humans, connected to myself, that I'm secure within myself. I don't need external validation, that I'm connected with each other empathy, kindness, humanity, and also that I'm connected to the planet that we're on. And it starts with, yes, loving myself, but I'd say as well, part of that is, and I don't know, maybe not everybody will agree with me, but loving myself also, we all need connection. Humans thrive on connecting with other people. So I guess I keep coming back just to the example that you're saying, by me putting up all these boundaries of like, I'm not going to do this and Tom over there is slaving away, how is that helping my connection to humanity around me? So I guess it's the education piece around helping our children understand, what does it mean to love themselves? So that means, you know, love myself in terms of what I eat, what I listen to, what I watch, who I surround myself with, where I am. But what does it also mean to love the space I'm in, with the people I'm around? And again, this is not just a one-time lesson, and I know it's not very practical right now, but it's, I think,
every day in making.
Yeah, and I think for me, because what I see when I say connect to myself, what I see a lot is this tendency to not want to connect and lean into the discomfort, the uncomfortable feelings I might have about myself. If I feel jealous because that person's got something that I don't have, therefore I'm just going to carry on scrolling and liking, but I'm not actually going to sit with that feeling and actually, like, let's explore that a bit more. What does this jealousy mean? Where does it come from? What's a different way? Okay, actually, it's all right for me to feel this. Okay, how can I start to change that? Or frustration, or boredom, or feeling insecure. I don't connect with those parts of myself, but then I just connect with the good feelings, but I don't build the capacity to lean into the messy parts of myself, and it's all human, and actually through that have compassion for myself. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. I think when we lean in those feelings, that's where true love to yourself, not just instant gratification, which can feel like love can happen, and that's where growth happens, because those feelings, they help us lean, like you said, lean in. I would say almost like lean against, like spring. They're like springs that accelerate our growth.
And I want to give you a practical example. I think, like, let's say with parents, and I mean this has happened countless times, where, you know, parents that come to me, they've read the books, they want to do the work, but there's still this gap, and there's gonna, you know, we're always learning.
My son always tells me, Mom, you read all these books, but you don't do any of the stuff they write.
He's smart, listen to him. But I think it's like that, you know, you've all had those days where you've yelled at your child, like it's been a bad day, you've said something, reacted, and now they're in bed, or they've gone to school, and now you beat yourself up because you're like, why did I say this? Why did I say this?
Yeah.
It's those moments where we have to, I feel, requires a bit of bravery. Instead of me scrolling on Instagram or whatever, you know, like, let me really tap into that, about what was going on for me. Where was that coming from? Compassion. No wonder I did that, because of everything that I'm feeling. But what else was going on underneath that? And when, you know, a really good question is, when have I felt this way when I was maybe my son's age or my daughter's age? And, you know, what did I need from my parents when I felt this way? And that's how we connect with ourselves.
I actually just started doing that, but, you know, with age, we forget how we felt. And it's something you really need.
Yeah.
You really need to take time and space to dig up, because as the older, you know, you get, the less you remember.
Yeah, but can you, when have I felt not heard, that my parents, like, what, you know, might not know the exact example, but it's like, actually, yeah, probably didn't feel heard. And it most, I'm not saying all the time, but it often is that we just didn't feel heard. We weren't allowed to feel safe to express the anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so I think that's, and boundaries are good, because I think there's also, some of us need more boundaries and some of us need less boundaries. Then we need a little bit more empathy. So, you know, yeah.
And it's a moving, it's a liquid thing.
100%.
But honestly, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I learned a lot today.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will be reading the books.
Yeah.
And rereading and rewatching the reels in the morning before getting out of the bedroom. But it's been very informative,
Thank you.
which is exactly what I want. I want women, if they want more information, then they can go to you.
Yeah.
But I feel like we left women today equipped with definitely some small things
I'm glad.
they can start doing to help themselves.
I'm really glad. That's what for me, it's always about practical, actionable, one thing at a time. So thank you.
Perfect. If you love this conversation with Natalie, please share it with a parent or a friend who needs it. And don't forget to follow us at do.not.disturb.podcast. You can find Natalie on Instagram at powerthoughts_, and through the Power Thoughts programs and workshops. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Do Not Disturb.